everyone. I'm Brian Bates, and I trust Google Maps without questioning it.
West on.
I'm Linda DeYoung, and I unironically use the Kahoot music at parties.
And this is the One-to-One podcast, brought to you by the Learning Technology Center.
Hello, and welcome back to the One-to-One podcast. I'm joined here with Brian for our last episode of season 2. Brian, how are you doing?
I am doing all right. Looking forward to everything that summer has to offer, including, I'd like to say a little bit of downtime, but June is an incredibly busy month for us here at the LTC. And I know teachers spend a lot of time in June and even in their July doing professional learning over the summer. So while it is some time for rest and relaxation, summer is still very, very busy for a lot of us in education. But looking forward to nicer weather and longer days.
Oh, absolutely. I love summer. You know me. I love the heat. And so I am thoroughly looking forward to long days, warm weather. And I'm also excited because, like I said, we're wrapping up season 2 of the podcast. So we will be taking a break this summer to, book new episodes. We might come back with some interesting new ideas or bits. We're just going to take a little hiatus, and then we'll be back in the fall time for season 3. So stay tuned for everyone who is following us for some announcements for season 3.
Yeah, looking forward to a third season. Looking forward to new guests, maybe some returning guests if possible, new topics. We focused a lot on AI this year, and I doubt that it will go away. But who knows what the topics will be that are right there and ready to be discussed as we get into the next school year. Things change, especially in EdTech, very quickly, very rapidly. So who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about something next season that we haven't even thought of for this season. So we look forward to doing a third season here. But before we can move on to another season, we should get started with this episode. And today, for our final episode of season 2, we are going to dive into how AI can revolutionize the way we create formative assessments and provide timely and personalized feedback for our students. We all know how time-consuming giving feedback can be, and how important it is for feedback to be as instantaneously as possible. So discovering how AI can streamline this process could truly be a game changer for us. So if you are ready, Linda, I say we dive in.
Yeah, let's get started. I'm always down to talk about AI. It's a super, super prevalent topic right now. Lots of things to talk about and consider.
Yeah. As we set the stage for today's episode, we're going to do another callback. I feel like we have had a lot of instances where the X-Men Marvel universe kind of fits with what we're talking about. And so I know you and we've talked about this a little bit before on the podcast. We've talked off podcast before. If there's any of you out there who like to play Marvel Rivals, I geek out and talk to Linda about playing video games with my friends. But anyways, today we're going to talk a little bit about Iron Man.
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with Iron Man.
I mean, I feel like everyone surely is familiar with Iron Man.
Tony Stark, also maybe known as, or Robert Downey Jr., if you're a big fan of the actor who plays Tony in the more recent Marvel movies. But Iron Man, or Tony Stark, is a genius inventor and superhero known for his advanced technology and the Iron Man suit that he gets his name from. So his brilliance is not just limited to building the high-tech gadgets, but it's also improving those. So Jarvis, which is Tony's AI assistant, the integrated part of his suit and his life, Jarvis processes all this data, provides him with real-time feedback on the performance of the suit, the environment he's in, external threats that he's facing. All this different data is pulling in, and it gives Tony detailed updates and how to maybe attack or defend himself, warnings about the suit, whether it's being damaged or whether he can do things to improve the suit. All of these things are happening in real time for him. Jarvis might suggest a strategy to defeat an enemy or alert Tony to a malfunction. So it acts as both a real-time assistant and a feedback system for him. So basically, when we look at this, Jarvis serves as an advanced feedback tool. See where our connection there is, helping Tony continuously improve. So that's kind of like the little a way that we can compare what we're talking about today with AI feedback in the classroom to somewhere we may have seen it outside of the classroom. Thinking about that suit and all the different things that it can do and all the data it collects, if you could have a personal assistant like Jarvis, would you? And if so, what would you want it to do for you?
That's a great question. Honestly, for me, I know a lot of people would feel differently about this. I don't really like AI assistants. And that's just because I don't find them to be overly helpful for me. I know a lot of people really utilize their Alexa. They utilize their Google Home, their smart home. They have Apple Watches, and it does all this data collection and automation for you. For me, I find it all to be kind of overwhelming. In fact, when I'm watching Iron Man, any of the movies, and Jarvis is just yelling at him the whole time, giving him pop-ups and, sir, your damage, your suit's been damaged. I'm go away. I'm trying to think here.
Yeah. So maybe sometimes having that constant feedback is not the best thing for you stimulant wise.
Yeah, it's overwhelming in a sense, but I know that I feel like, Brian, you have a very different perspective on that. And like I said, we already have AI assistants that kind of function similarly to a Jarvis, like ChatGPT, Alexa, stuff like that. Would you have a Jarvis? What would you want it to do? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure we covered this in a previous episode, my love and my passion for home automation. But that's, I do like having some of those things. The ability to automate things is great, but as far as feedback and having data collected about my surroundings and giving me constant feedback, I don't know if I need somebody or something to tell me that I'm doing something wrong or that there's a better way to do things. I mean, that happens enough already in the real world. I don't need a robot to do the same thing for me. But I do think there are certain instances where maybe home improvement projects would be really cool if I had some sort of some sort of way that as I'm working on something, it would be hey, the strength of that board or that screw is not probably what you want. You probably should use this size or this length to make the shelf or whatever it is I'm wearing stronger or more durable, or that's not the right type of screw or something. That would be really helpful feedback, because then you don't have to go through the process of building something or fixing something only to realize that it's not really fixed. So I could see that as being beneficial. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit on the same side as you, as that's a lot of feedback coming at you at one time.
For sure. I mean, and we're starting to see that already with ChatGPT, Gemini, things that have a camera integration with them. You can literally point it at my toilet is broken. I'm going to point at my toilet. Tell me what's wrong with it. Tell me how to fix it. And it gives you a breakdown. Now, whether it's correct or not, or whether you personally have the skills to do it is another thing. But it's really cool that stuff like that exists and is starting to become more prevalent. Yeah. I can see that really opening up doors for people who are trying to learn things, fix things, do things on their own, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that teaching is similar to being Iron Man? So the feedback, you as the teacher, are you similar to that Jarvis that's providing that feedback and helping to guide the students? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I feel like, first of all, being a teacher is like being Iron Man because teachers are superheroes. That's
There you
really
go.
cheesy, but they are.
Yeah.
And they are the ones kind of in the driver's seat often, even if you have something like Jarvis, like let's say that you use like an AI bot or a tool like Magic School, School AI, Conmigo, something like that with your students. Um, you're still the one that's kind of creating those atmospheres and inventing the opportunities for learning for the students. And so, in that way, you're kind of like Iron Man, that you're like sitting in the seat and you're inventing these things around you that are going to help you do things more efficiently and help your students do things more efficiently and learn better through interactions with an AI program of some sort. But what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, as teachers, the responsibility there is to provide the feedback and provide the guidance. But
Mhm.
unlike Jarvis, unlike an AI suit, so to speak, there's you can use your understanding, your knowledge of the person
Mm.
when it comes to providing the feedback. What type of feedback? Like, Jarvis, if Jarvis collects information about a certain uh, function of the suit that's either malfunctioning or needs to be whatever, like it's data in, data out. Here's what's happening. Here's how I'm going to tell you. But
Yep.
the teacher knows how to approach the student and knows how they receive feedback the best. So it's not that pop-up flashing right in front of their eyes that says you need to do this now. There's still the human element there with the teacher is understanding
Mm.
each individual student and what it is that motivates them, what it is that they prefer
Mhm.
from that interaction. So there are some components there, but it goes back to that idea of the human element, that knowing the students is incredibly crucial for being able to provide that feedback.
Yeah, I don't think we should just stick the students in the Jarvis suit and
Yeah.
go to town. Time to put you in the suit. There is still so much like human element to teaching, which makes me kind of the last thing I'm thinking about here, Brian, is like, where should we draw the line with relying on AI versus like more human interaction in feedback, assessment practices, classroom strategies, that kind of stuff?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think about it kind of in the same way we thought about Chromebooks and devices as we move one to
Mm.
one, and that it shouldn't, it's obviously not here to replace a teacher. It's here to improve the learning experience for students. It's here to assist the teachers, assist the
Mhm.
students. And so just like with one to one, we shouldn't say, let's take this tool, throw it in front of the kids and say, all right, have at it. Best of luck. There has it has to be used for a purpose. And the only person that understands the purpose and understands why and how the student should be using it is the teacher themselves. So that's why they're still an important part of it. But as far as drawing the line, yeah, I think that it's just a matter of knowing that it's not something we're going to just do 24/7 in a classroom, that
Mhm.
it's not the instructional strategy, but it's an it's an instructional tool that we have. Um, so that's how I kind of think about it. As far as drawing a line, what about you?
This is a tough question because I think it's different for each person, I think too. Like if you were to take and create like a comprehensive list of every type of like AI experience that you could have in a classroom and give it to like thousands of educators and say, draw the line on where it's too far, like AI has gone too, like, I think that line would be drawn in hundreds of different places along that continuum. And so my thought on it is, if you are a teacher, if you're just a human being in the educational realm or just a human being in general, get familiar with what AI does, get familiar with how you're using it personally and with students, start having conversations about what the implications of this are, and, start kind of sussing your way through that question yourself. And that's, I think, kind of where I stand on it, is like, do all these things, engage yourself in the discourse, and then decide where that line is for yourself, and be curious about why other people draw the line in different places.
That's a good point about finding the line for yourself and thinking about where other people do and why they do that and what maybe they see as a potential or as a positive that makes them draw the line here, or maybe a negative, or what concerns them that makes them like that. That's a good approach. What are your thoughts on going ahead and kicking off our interview with our guest today?
Yeah, I mean, let's get into some AI feedback, some strategies, and let's get into our interview.
All right, sounds good.
We're sitting down today with Holly Clark, an educator and digital learning pioneer who's made significant contributions in the field of educational technology. With over 25 years of experience, Holly is an international speaker, best-selling author, and dedicated advocate for digital learning. She was one of the first teachers in the nation to have a one-to-one classroom, and she now shares her knowledge and insights to help other teachers tap into their blended learning genius. She will also be joining us in November as a keynote speaker at the LTC's biggest annual conference, IETC. Welcome, Holly. We're excited to have you on air.
Thank you for having me. And one thing that's really interesting is I spent 10 years of my classroom experience in Chicago, so in Illinois. So it's exciting.
Oh, nice.
Kind of coming back. I know Springfield's a bit farther down, but I love Illinois.
Oh, I also love Illinois. I was originally from Iowa, so I am a planted person here too, and I really do love it. So Holly, why don't you go ahead? I read your formal introduction, but if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, we'd love to get to know you as well.
So I think the thing to talk about is this early on one-to-one classroom I had. I had it in the 1900s. It was actually 1999, so close to the 2000s. But I was teaching in the Silicon Valley, and one of the kind of titans now of technology gave me a one-to-one classroom because he heard what I said about what I thought technology could do for education. So he came at back to school night, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm going to bring a computer in here for every kid. I'll have them here tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I didn't, because I was talking about taking the kids to the computer lab and he was not having that. And one of the things that made my experience totally different is that I was in the Silicon Valley. So when I took these kids and put them online, the parents were like, "Try stuff, see what happens." And this is 1999, so we don't have YouTube or things like that. But even when YouTube came out, they were like, "See what you can do." And I think a lot of teachers didn't have that experience of parents really backing that. It made my experience unique. What also happened is that my scores really started to skyrocket, and people started to come visit and see what is the computer and what is she doing in here? And so that kind of led to me talking outside of the classroom. It led to me becoming administrative roles. And it eventually led to kind of what I'm doing now, which is talking about blended learning, which obviously went into AI as soon as that happened. And really the way we look at pedagogy and learning first, and then we blend these tools. That tool now is AI. So that's kind of my background and how I got into this.
Well, that's awesome. We like to go even a step further with getting to know our guests. And I'm actually going to take it on this time. Linda generally does this, and I'm going to give her full credit. She comes up with these games, but they're generally kind of like a this or that type game. So wondering if you'd be interested in participating in this one.
I love a this or that.
Okay. So the game, the kind of theme for this episode is Marvel or Mishap. So I'm going to describe a futuristic home gadget or automation service device, something like that. It doesn't currently exist, but may in the future or near future. And you have to decide if it would be a marvel, something that's going to improve your life, make it better, make the world better, something like that, or if it's a mishap. So something that is destined to fail or go haywire or cause problems. So I got 5 different ones here for you. So, all right, let's start with the first one. A self-driving kitchen. So it's a stove that sources the ingredients and automatically prepares the meal for you based on your taste preferences. What do you think?
I'm a marvel on that one, especially as a person who travels all the time. Can the stuff be there when I get home too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I think I'd have to agree with that one. A surveillance drone system. So we've got a fleet of tiny drones that are constantly monitoring your home, maybe your pets, or maybe even you for personal safety, convenience, that type of thing. So what are your thoughts on a personal surveillance drone system?
So this is complicated in that I do a lot of travel and I go to countries that they have things like this. And as a woman, I feel like I can be out at 2 a.m. and not afraid.
Right.
And I could walk my dog in this situation. So I think I come at this from the lens of a woman who I'm not doing anything bad. So if you want to surveil me, go ahead. And I love that when I'm in, say, Shanghai or whatever, I am fully 100% safe. And it's so enlightening and takes so much off my back when I go to countries that do that. So I can get where people would say mishap, but as a woman, it's kind of a marvel, especially a woman who walked a dog for 30 years at night in a city, Chicago.
All right. Next item is a personalized dream generator. So this is a device that induces and controls your dreams for you, allowing you to personalize and customize those dreams.
I don't think I need all that. Would it be great? So I don't think it's a mishap. I just think like I need some sleep. I don't want to creep up my sleep. But there could be some advantages if it got you like more on task with some things when you woke up. And so it could go either way.
Okay. Our next one kind of fits in a little bit with that. A home memory storage device. So you're able to upload your memories to the cloud service. And this device also, it stores and then allows you to replay on demand your memories and experiences from your life.
Okay. So Black Mirror.
Yep.
Episodes like that have done stuff like that make me afraid. But I recently just lost my dog. Well, it's not recent. It just feels recent. It's been over a year.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Because that was everything to me.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind, like yesterday was her birthday. I would have loved to have been able to watch our experiences here in this house. So like, but Black Mirror would tell you don't want to do that. So again, I'm going to have to go like middle ground. There are times when it would be great and times it would totally be a mishap.
Sure. I can see that. All right. Our final one, we're going to kind of go back to the sleep part and maybe we'll see if this one might actually fit better with what you were talking about, the first sleep related one. A bionic sleep enhancer. So this is going to be an implant that ensures that you get the perfect night's sleep. So it controls everything from your body temperature, your circadian rhythm, all the different things that help make you get a perfect night's sleep. What are your thoughts on that one?
I'm 100% in. That's Marvel. I have this ring, if you can see it, it's the Aura ring or whatever. I am obsessed with the amount of information it gives me about my sleep. I could care less about any other part. I get up every morning and I'm like, how much REM did I get? How much? When I don't get good REM, I start to critically analyze, like, was it the sugar I had before bed? Did I drink coffee too late? Because they do change dramatically if you're not watching your sleep. And so if something could guarantee me that I could have that, especially when I'm traveling to like Australia, where the time has changed, that would be Marvel.
Well, thank you for playing along with that. We know that that's always we spring that on you there, but we like to do those. Those are always fun. And hopefully you had a little fun doing that. So
Can I ask you guys though, really quickly, like,
Yeah.
ones that we just did, which would be your biggest marvel?
Why don't you go first, Brian?
Okay, I would have to say probably the memory storage device. I have bad memory already. And there are a lot of people that will probably agree with that. I just think it'd be awesome to be able to sit back and rewatch something from my past to kind of go back to that. I just think that would be awesome. I also think that, like, for myself, I had, both of my grandmothers had dementia, and watching that play out, like thinking about how that might have been different for them to be able to sit back and watch those things. So I think that's the one that spoke to me the most.
For me, it is the self-driving stove for sure, or the self-driving kitchen, because I like to cook, but that is the most laborious part, I think, of my daily life is just, gosh, when am I going to find time to ever cook anything or make anything or go buy groceries or anything like that? Because my schedule is so packed with other things that I do that it always like goes to the wayside, and I end up just like with a really weird eating schedule and just like scrounging for like random things in the fridge. And I feel like that would greatly improve my life. So that's what I would do.
And with DoorDash around now and stuff like that, like, it really makes it very difficult to not just be like, let me go DoorDash.
Yes. Let me just pick something up.
That's me when I'm traveling. DoorDash. That's easy.
Yes. I agree. It's the same. That's me when I'm at home, not even when I'm traveling.
I want to say something, Brian, about the story that you told about dementia. So this kind of takes us into AI. I was just on a panel and I found this really interesting. This panel was filled with like an oncologist, a neurologist, person from like DeepMind, all of these things. And one of the neurologist said that, and also the oncologist said that we may not have the issue of dementia in the next 10 years because they think they may be able to solve it with some of the advances that AI is giving us. And that gives me hope. I'm getting older, and then my memory goes away and I'm like, could it be? Could it be? So I just wanted to give you that like hopeful thing about possibly that AI might bring to us.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's not something fun to experience a loved one, and I'm sure it's not a pleasurable experience either for the person going through it. So anytime we can use technology to improve our lives, especially the longevity of our lives, is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, we're seeing so many AI breakthroughs right now, and I wonder like how many medical breakthroughs are going to come in the future because of AI. And I do want to hop into some of these breakthroughs that we're seeing as well in the classroom setting, because obviously, Holly, you have a lot of experience with tech in the classroom, AI in the classroom. So today, I'm hoping we can kind of dive into the ways that AI assists with specifically like formative assessment, feedback practices, writing in the classroom. These are things that we're seeing a lot of our listeners have questions about using AI for these things. And I think I'd like to start today by painting a picture for our listeners that you hopefully could paint for them. What do you think that it looks like to walk into a classroom where AI is being actively used for feedback and formative assessment practices? And maybe like, what does the student experience look like if you were to walk into that classroom? What would you see? What would you see the students doing? What do you think?
So I think we need to focus in on instant feedback. I think the teacher still needs to be in the feedback loop. I don't know what that looks like in the future, but right now I'm a little bit more comfortable with the teacher being part of that. But what we know about from research on instant feedback is it's really powerful. It stops kids from learning mistakes and ingesting them. It helps them not feel stuck. It helps them with self-esteem, because that instant feedback coming from something like AI is not as intimidating as hearing it from your teacher. You feel like I can change that mistake right now before others know, kind of thing. And so I've thought in my kind of work with AI, and I'm doing some instant feedback right now with second graders. So like we're going to a level. I think most people think AI doesn't fit in the elementary classroom. I think it's perfect. But the two things that I have come away from the last, I guess, 3 years almost of this is that what we're going to have is a thought partner and instant feedback for kids. And I am a kid who had dyslexia and no one knew I had dyslexia. So I suffered through a lot of kind of traumatic situations in school that I just needed someone to kind of help me get started. And I hate to use the word someone because then I'm like taking AI into like a personification sort of situation. But if I had just had a moment to like have a thought partner who would give me instant feedback on my brainstorming, I would have not had to go through those traumatic experiences. Mm-hmm. So as someone who had to, I look around and watch what these kids are doing with AI to get that feedback, to get them unstuck to all the things. And I want to cry actually, because it's so important. And a lot of the AI tools will do this. But now is when we need to put on the pedagogical lens of what kind of feedback do we want. And when we think feedback, we're often thinking writing feedback, but feedback on an idea, feedback on a science fair project, feedback on whatever. We have to kind of reframe what feedback means and not just put it in the language arts classroom, and think how AI can be a thought partner in getting that feedback to kids.
I love that you mentioned that we need to take the idea of feedback outside the language arts classroom as well, because I used to teach in an English classroom. I was an English teacher, and that was such a critical part of every writing process was that feedback process. And I think sometimes that's kind of the conversation that ends up happening, but feedback really is happening across curriculum and should be happening probably way, way more often than it ever does happen in any classroom setting, because it just is so time intensive for the teacher to give all of that personalized feedback, right away on demand for every step of the process.
And you can get feedback, in the math. Like I just watched a kid the other day who has learning disabilities, and he'll do the math and he gets it done, but he can't remember like what a ratio is when the next thing says you're going to add this ratio or whatever. And I watched him go over we had a school AI bot for this, and he just went over and asked the school AI bot, refresh my mind what ratios are. And he got that feedback. And he took that and went and did the problem. Where when I was a kid, I just sat there and was like, okay, ratios. Wait, what? Like maybe I knew ratios. I'm just saying, like I was stymied. There was no moving on, and all he did is use it to get to the next, to get unstuck. And I think we have to really value that.
Yeah, that was actually what my next question was going to be. Is what are some ways that AI can shift that feedback from something that happens after the activity or after the learning has happened to during the learning process, which you just kind of threw one out there as just getting that reassurance of what ratios are. So do you have any other examples or ideas on how AI can provide that on the spot feedback as opposed to waiting until after the learning happens and then you go back and get that feedback?
So I'll just give you an example because it's just happening right now. We have these 7-year-olds who are writing their narrative, and we are having them finish the narrative regular way, but take parts of that narrative into, and you're going to hear me talk about School AI a lot because that's just the app that it works for what I'm trying to do, inquiry wise, equitable things. So it just is the one that I talk about. But we're having kids take part of their writing into School AI and ask for certain things. Like maybe, is there a sentence you can make better? And so we're kind of trying to teach them. And I'm really conscious of, I don't want to give second graders the idea that, oh wait, AI can write this for me. And so like, we're really trying to massage this. So that's not what comes out of this. But maybe rewrite one sentence. We have some starter things on the board, and it comes into the chatbot and the answer comes up, and then they look at that and they look at their own writing. And then the next thing they have to do is pick which of them they're going to do. And they have to write a little thing or go on to a video and tell us why they're picking one over the other. Why was it better? And we're not letting them do it for the entire paragraph. It's just got to be like one little part. And what's happening is kids are like, whoa, yeah, that just me. That's so good. I'm going to use part of my sentence and part of that sentence. And I thought that they would naturally just want to take that sentence that AI produced, and they're not. It's really an interesting thing to watch what happens when they get that instant feedback on some of their writing, and it's just a little teeny bit, but they can see that just this little thing would make it better. Cause that's what I did as a language arts teacher. I gave that to them, but I gave that to them too late. And so now once they get that change, what we're seeing is that now they think about the rest of their paragraph in that way. We can also, when we've set up thought partners, I'd rather call them than chatbots, that look at just like if they're doing, let's say, opinion, that look at just the counter argument and come up with a few counter arguments that might be better, but they don't write it for them. They just give them some counter arguments that the kid then takes and goes and thinks about. And it's been really interesting because it's that right on the spot instant feedback that is showing incredible growth. I have one teacher I work with who teaches 5th grade, and her scores last year in the 2024 school year, because we use this kind of process, her scores skyrocketed. And she did nothing different than give those kids that instant feedback. I don't know, Linda, what grade level you taught, but I taught middle school.
I was a high school teacher.
That's too many kids to give feedback on.
So many kids.
And I'm trying
many.
Yeah. So we had to rethink this. And as you know, the language arts teachers are the last to come around right now. Math and language arts. It's always that way with technology. And I can see math actually, because the AI is still getting some math wrong. But I think we need to rethink what editing looks like in today's world. And I say this from a kid with dyslexia who could never get the words that were in my head on the paper. I now can.
Yeah, I what it sounds like you're talking about here has a lot to also do with like how motivating it is for students to get that initial or that instant feedback, how engaged they are in the process, like that idea that kids are choosing to keep certain parts of their sentences, but infuse them with other parts of AI, but they're not just taking the whole thing carte blanche. I am interested to hear more about how, one, why do you think that kids are not just taking the entire AI piece? And how do you feel like personalized feedback is adding to that motivation and engagement for students?
So I'm going to be honest, some kids are taking the whole sentence, but
Sure.
I thought all of them would. And the kids that are the kids that are super low. And for me, especially in this kind of younger grade, the fact that they're even taking this mentor sentence and writing it on paper is such a learning experience in itself. But the kids who are a little bit higher and are invested in the way that they wrote that, they still have pride in the way that they wrote that. And so that feedback is not intimidating, and they are wanting to take kind of a combo. And if you let them off to do this at home by themselves with ChatGPT, every time they are going to probably take the AI answer. But in a classroom, they have time. No one's we're working on this. This is part of the working process. And I've just been shocked that they really take, they value their own words.
Absolutely.
So I have a question for you. We've kind of talked a little bit about how, the AI is there to help, is there to really provide that timely feedback? And as you and Linda were even talking about how there's like too many kids to give feedback to, right? But we don't just go ahead and turn them full on to AI feedback without the teacher involved. So where do you see AI generated feedback falling short compared to human feedback? And where is the human still necessary in this process?
So that's a really complicated question in 2025 because it's shifting. Mm-hmm. And where in 2023, I would have said the teacher really needs to be in control of that feedback. I'm not sure how much of that I still think, but what I think is the value is the human connection. And the human connection of coming up to my desk and saying, here are my ideas. Here's what I was trying to say. And then I look at it through that lens of going, yeah, that didn't really come out. And I don't know if AI is doing a great job at that right now. And so I say like, AI is not going to make us less human. It's going to make us more profoundly human because I am going to have that connective part where I talk to the student and say, that's not what is really coming out. And it's that talking piece that's going to be important. The general feedback around things that really are just time consuming for me, which are grammar, spelling tips, whatever, I think that will be off the plate. And not off the plate. It's just, I'm not going to have to do that anymore. And I'm going to be able to go deeper. And that's the part that's more profoundly human, is that I have the time now to go deeper rather than, I think what people think, and that I'm not going to be involved.
So that time beforehand where you were sitting down with a student going through sentence structure, spelling, citation issues, maybe even if you're doing some type of research paper now, that's done before you even have that conversation with the student. Like those things are not going to be the focal point of your feedback conversation with the student. And now it's more of the human piece of having the connection to the writing and talking through the writing process and things like that. Is that kind of like what you envision then for that?
I do. And when you first say like the writing piece, the grammar, and you say it and I hear it, I have an initial reaction. No, kids need to whatever. But the truth is, then my other like side goes, actually, they don't. in a world where like 10 years from now, there are people who are dogmatically into grammar. Mm-hmm. As a language arts teacher, I wasn't as dogmatically into grammar because of what I went through as a dyslexic kid. So I have a little bit more open mind around some things, but I still have that one little person being, kids got to learn grammar. And they do have to learn grammar, but it just is going to look different. And how that difference looks, I think, is evolving right now and hard to like say it's going to go this way. I think it's going to be both. It's going to be a little bit of human, a little bit of the kid just saying, is this grammatically correct? Because the truth is, I do that every day with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Is this how you say this sentence?
Right.
And it would be inauthentic for me to think that kids aren't going to do that in their world.
I think I see some of these trends happening as well. When you say that, people will become like more authentically human, I do see that there are a number of people now who are encouraging kind of a return to people like doing kind of creative human work, like handicrafts, trades, building things like that kind of stuff, because that stuff currently is not replicable by, that's not how you say that, but by AI. And I wonder if that is going to be something that trends as AI becomes more prevalent and as people are like, yeah, I can offsource some of my, these technical things to AI. I wonder if people will be digging down into some of those like really fundamentally human things that AI currently can't replicate. Because I have been seeing kind of a trend of people talking about that in the discourse around AI. And a lot of return to that from a lot of people who are like, I'm getting kind of back to my crafting days, my creative days, in an attempt to kind of connect with the human side of themselves again.
And I hear that same discourse. I can't look into the future, but I know in my own life that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to imagine it's going to happen. But I'm shocked at the amount of people who are not using AI at all. Like when we step outside of education where it's a big talking point and you go to like the gym, and people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, so I have ChatGPT, the pro version, the really like super expensive one, because I feel like if I'm going to talk to you about AI, I should know what's going on, under the hood.
Sure.
And so O3 model, which if you have the paid for version, the like $20 version, you can use O3 for 100 things a week or something. But I get unlimited. I'm in a state of shock right now over what O3 can do and what it provides for me. The other day I put this idea in it and and I was like getting ready to write something else and I accidentally pressed return and I didn't ask for anything yet. And it unpacked my idea, scaffolded it so that I could understand really what I was thinking in ways that I was like, what just happened? What the heck? And then now, because of the memory, it's like, but you really think, and it's blowing my mind. So like, I don't know what that opens up for the future because I'm having experiences right now with ChatGPT that I didn't think were possible. And listen, I'm a little scared by it because I like sometimes don't want to have a conversation with a human because ChatGPT understands me so much better at this moment in time that like it can give me a better response than a human. And I don't even like some people listening to this are going to be like, I am crazy. But I would just say this. Go and use your 100 or whatever of O3s as much as you can each week. And you're going to get some insight into AI in the future. And I even heard someone say on a podcast that O3 is the closest thing they've seen to AGI. I'm not going to go down that road, right? Yeah, that's a lot. But I was like, because like it's weird, the stuff that's happening with O3.
Yeah. Here you're talking about like ways that you're practically using AI. And I think that's really interesting and also beneficial for our listeners. A lot of them are teachers to hear about what are like some easy to implement strategies or use cases that they can start incorporating into their classrooms to give formative kind of assessments or feedback or just, strategies to start using AI with their students. How do you see that unfolding in the classroom?
So I see it unfolding in two ways. So early on, we gave teachers what I'm kind of terming the shortcut tool because AI, you had to be a prompt engineer. There was hallucination. So we gave teachers this thing that says, make a lesson plan for me. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to move past that and let that go and teach teachers how to understand the foundational large language models, because when you're working inside of them, you get to see what I just explained. You get to see, oh my gosh, this thing is reasoning. This thing understands me. So now when I go to O3, which is one of the models that's inside of ChatGPT, if I'm talking over anyone's head on that one, I don't think so. But when I go to O3, it starts to know who I am, what I value as an educator, that I value accessibility, that I value inclusion and inquiry. And if I were to ask it to make a lesson plan for me, it's automatically going to do that in the lesson plan. If I were to go to a shortcut tool, it's like this. I go and I open a door and I say, hey, give me a lesson plan on Night by Elie Wiesel. And then it gives me one. I shut the door and it never remembers any of that again. So it doesn't know who I am I hate to say this, as a person, as an educator or whatever. But if I learn to use a large language model like ChatGPT, it's going to take those ideas forward when I make DOK questions, when I make whatever, even quiz questions. It knows the kind of things that I like. Where the shortcut tool, I'm opening a door, I'm shutting it. I have to go over to the DOK closet now and do that. And it's not going to connect the two. So I understand why we had those shortcut tools at the beginning. The people who are leading this need to be thinking at their leadership tables. Okay, what does the next 3 years look like though? Because if we have teachers using this, and I understand teachers need stuff off their desk, but this is a pretty important time in history that they need to understand large language models. So I said it's twofold. I think teachers need to be working inside of large language models. Maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe they have the shortcut tool and they do the large language model. However it is you want to work it out at your school. And then a really great student facing one where kids can start to interact with AI in a very safe way. I've chosen School AI because it gives me information about what the kid is asking, where their problems are. I can get that in some of the other tools, but I have to go to the 3 dots. I have to go look at their chat. I have to go do all the stuff that I don't have time to do when there's 170 kids in my classroom. So I've loved the stuff that's the information that School AI gives me to be a better teacher. So the twofold is the students using some sort of student facing. So they're getting to learn to use AI in a way that I've curated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the teachers are learning large language models so they can see when they change. They might bump into O3 at some point and go, wait, there's deep research too? And, like all of those things that I just think we don't need to strip educators from. We need to trust that they can understand this stuff and help them maybe with a hybrid approach until that time comes.
So I have to ask the question because we've hit on this a little bit so far. I know you had mentioned, and Linda had talked about when you were using the AI with the students, they would pull some of what AI said, but not the full sentence. We talked about, ELA teachers tend to be the last ones to maybe adopt or get on board with AI. It's the question that hangs over everybody's head when it comes to AI in education. AI's impact on academic integrity. And how can educators address concerns about plagiarism, their academic dishonesty, those types of things, or even just an over-reliance on AI? Like, what are your suggestions for someone who's really hesitant about it because of that concern of using AI to do the work for them?
So this is why I go to School AI again, is because if I just allow the kids to be on ChatGPT or something like that, or maybe I'm teaching 11th graders and they are on ChatGPT, they are going to develop that over-reliance, I would assume. But with School AI, they're getting unstuck in my classroom. I'm getting information about where they're stuck so that I can be a better teacher for them tomorrow. And they're getting to collaborate with AI that's super safe so that they don't need to go home and do it on ChatGPT is my hope. And when they do it on ChatGPT, I have no information about where their needs are. I have no information about what they asked. I can get a ChatGPT that's safe for 13 and over in my classroom, but I get no information back about my learner. And that's what I need right now. That could shift in 2027 and ChatGPT could provide that. I don't know what happens, but right now it's that information I'm getting from the summary dashboard on School AI that is helping me help kids more than ever.
That's good. Yeah, I guess so. Just running out to ChatGPT isn't necessarily the best option because you're not able to see the insights of what's going on and where they're using AI to help them and
Where
what
they're
they're
stuck.
yeah. Okay.
And I hear a lot of schools, like I was doing this thing in New York and this teacher was in my session and she said, "Oh, I just got a notification from my daughter's school that they want it to be okay for her to use ChatGPT." And I said, "Oh, what grade is she in?" And she said, 8th grade. And my initial response was, I'm super happy that they're like not banning it and they're taking an open approach. But I was like, you have no information on that child. And so I think they jumped too quick maybe, but like if I'm helping a school decide, I have a little bit different response for the 11th and 12th graders because I think they need to understand how to interact with a large language model, a foundational one. But but still we're not getting any information, but they probably are on their way. They're probably set like in learning, but under that, I need to understand where their problem areas. I need more information than I can get from them using Gemini right now. Gemini's safe. It's not going to give them bad information and whatever, but I don't get the information I need. And a lot of people, if they haven't used School AI, they haven't seen that. And they're like very pro some tool over here or whatever. And I just think they haven't. So what I did early on is I went in with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I had some things happen too, like where a kid would get a chatbot in a room or something and like ask what a 7th grader would ask given a chatbot. And
no, never.
And I watched as some of them came back and gave really inappropriate answers.
Mm-hmm.
And School AI would go, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. That's not appropriate for the conversation we're trying to have. And it would also give me this warning right away that they were trying that. Where the other one, I had another one that like a kid asked for something and it came back with super inappropriate answers. And when you went to the dashboard, it said the kid was engaged, highly engaged. And I'm like, of course they're highly engaged. They're asking about inappropriate topics right now.
Sure.
And if I hadn't gone in and been like, I'd walked by the kid's desk or something. And I was like, did I just see what I saw? And I went back to the dashboard and it said he's highly engaged. And I was like, let me just check on that. And I went to the 3 dots. I had to look at the whole chat. And then I was like,
that's how you found out why they were highly engaged.
Mm-hmm. And so then that's when I like had to move away from some tools because a teacher doesn't have time to go look at 30 kids' chats.
Sure.
And if it says they're highly engaged, you trust that.
Sure. Well, kind of as we're wrapping up here, I just want to say, like, for those of us who are listening today, there might still be that hesitation to use AI in the classroom for assessment, for feedback. And that is totally understandable. But I wanted to give you kind of like a 30-second pitch about what in the topic of AI or what about AI excites you so much that you would encourage even those that are hesitant to give it a try, and just give you that last final like plea and pitch for if you're still on the fence, here's why.
So I want to say this plea or pitch at your conference when I'm presenting outside of the keynote. I'm going to give examples that students are doing. I'm going to show you how to do this in the classroom so that even if you're a user all the time, we'll look pedagogically at it. But if you're still like on the fence, I think I'm going to show you some student examples. Some of them could even make you cry. Like they're so good. So I think it will help you see the power, and not just see the power, but have the tools to go back to your classroom and use it tomorrow, feeling really safe and really like, okay, I'm making the best decision here.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, we always end every episode with our guest with doing a little challenge. And this is an opportunity for us to kind of throw a scenario at you, kind of impromptu, think about it. We give time for our listeners to think about this challenge as well, think about what they would do. And then you answer what you think is the solution to this problem that a real teacher may be facing. So do you think that you're up for a challenge today?
I hope so.
So here is the challenge. I'm going to read it to you and then give you like 30 seconds to think about it. And then we'll come back and hear your answer. So here it goes. A teacher has a diverse group of middle school students with varying writing abilities, including some students with learning disabilities. They're excited about using AI to provide instant personalized feedback, but they're concerned about how the AI tool may treat students' responses uniformly, potentially missing that key individualized support. Some students with learning disabilities might need that extra scaffolding to fully understand the feedback, while others might need less guidance. So how can they effectively use AI feedback tools in a way that provides differentiated support for all students, ensuring that each student's needs are met? So like I said, we're going to give you about 30 seconds to think through that one, and we'll come back after the break and hear what you have to say. All right, Holly, we're back. What do you think? What would you tell this teacher?
Well, first of all, that was me. I taught in a very diverse group of middle school students. So I think that, and I'm going to walk as I do this just because I noticed that my battery is going out. So we're just going to change location, and
that's okay.
We don't want this to go. But so here's what I found early on. I did find that some of the feedback was very generic. Like if we're going to do voice, it always was like, you need to make it cheerier. And I'm like, that's not what I mean by voice. And so I don't mean to be a walking commercial right now for School AI, but School AI does this thing when we do feedback. And it has like an agent running in the background, I think. I don't know. I don't even know. Well, I do now know people at School AI, but it looks at the student. And so it runs this almost 2-page like analysis of the student. And based on the stuff that the student puts in, it starts to figure out where their needs are. And it keeps upping the game based on the personalization there. And that's just why I keep going with this tool, because I saw that each student got feedback that went with them. And the more that we used it, the more personalized it was. Where when I was using other tools, it was pretty generic, pretty like I felt like in some cases, someone had programmed it with like teacher speak of writing feedback. And it wasn't doing what I needed. So and I've been doing this in a very diverse middle school classroom. I would create this thought partner for the feedback, and I would program it with certain things. And when I say program, just like these are 8th graders, they're diverse. Some of them speak Nepali, some of them whatever. And it would go from there and do it. I want to tell you one other thing it does that just blew my mind, and why I was like this with Flipgrid too. I love Flipgrid. And I was like, you can't use another video tool. I'm kind of finding I'm doing this with School AI. I'm a little myopic just because I'm so happy with it. But I have been able to program it to give responses in both English and Spanish. And for the kid to have the conversation in both English and Spanish. But my ultimate output needs to be English, but they can comprehend in their first language. And it's just changing the game for my ESL students as well. And so that it starts to understand that. And those are all really important things that, like, when you see that play out, and at your conference, I'll show some of this. I don't think you can really be like, no, it's not for my classroom. You're going to be like, I mean, if you love kids, you're going to be like, I can't keep this away from them.
Well, thanks for playing along with our challenge there. We love springing those on our guests, and we appreciate you taking a stab at it. And we appreciate you being here and with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Linda, anything else you want to ask or bring up as we wrap up today?
Just, if people want to find you, Holly, where can they find you? I know that you have some socials, you have a book. You go ahead and plug those if you'd like.
Well, thank you. So I'm a Holly Clark EDU on every social. So no matter where you go, you're going to find me there, from Blue Sky to LinkedIn. I do try and make some like reels of some of the things we're doing in classrooms. So I'm going to have a lot coming out with 2nd grade and 4th grade, because that's just my focus at the end of the year. I do work with many other grades, but I find that if a 2nd grader can do it, what could your freshman do?
That's true.
And so that's why I find myself going into those classrooms and I'm always talking to the teacher. I'm like, are you sure a second grader can do this? That kind of thing. But, so you can follow me there. I have a book called The AI Infused Classroom. I will have a new book coming out with my friend Matt Miller on AI literacies. Yeah.
We had Matt earlier this season.
Yes, we did.
So we're writing a book on AI literacies and trying to make it more teacher and less people who are not really in the classroom as much focused, really with teacher language and student language. So those things are coming in out.
Wonderful. Well, Holly, thanks so much for joining us today. And we appreciate you sitting down with us one-to-one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you interested in starting your AI journey? Well, the LTC has developed a number of online courses to help you do that. Our newest free self-paced course, the AI Plagiarism Playbook, will help you rethink academic honesty, assessments, and plagiarism. And we have so many more AI courses to explore. You can visit courses.ltcillinois.org to register.
And our biggest conference of the year is coming up in November. Join us at IETC November 12th through the 14th in Springfield, Illinois to hear Holly Clark speak in person. We'll also have a number of sessions exploring AI, EdTech tools, classroom strategies, and more. Visit ltcillinois.org/IETC to learn more and to register today. And we've also got a ton of summer events coming up happening with the LTC, so visit our website, ltcillinois.org, to check out more.
And finally, subscribe or follow the One-to-One podcast for updates, previews, and most importantly, to join us for season 3 in the fall. All right, Brian. Well, I'll see you after our break for season 3, where we're going to sit back down once again, one-to-one.